And we are back to talk about My Adventure with Superman Season 3, Episode 4, I believe. It feels like it's moving so fast, but like in a good way. It's been quite fun. And I'm here with the one and only legendary, by the way. Mm-hmm.
Aaron Thomas funny clips.
The man, the myth, the legend. He's got two channels. You gotta go check him out. What's your other channel? Let him know, let him know.
So I have my Cameron 2.0 channel. I haven't uploaded in forever, and then I have my abridged channel to potato chip abridge. It's really funny. I just do whatever I want, whatever humor I want. I make the comedy like how it used to be with the abridges, where it can be offensive as it wants to, or it can be as clean as it wants to.
Here. If you love My Adventures with Superman, you gotta go check out his channel. If you don't, well, you just hate it. You have to check out both of his channels, actually. No, you have to. You have to if you watch this video. Yeah. How'd you feel about this big episode? It was, actually, I felt like it was a little too fast, man. What'd you think about that?
I actually thought this was a very good episode. If these episodes keep on being as peak as they are, I it's gonna spoil me for like any other thing in DC history because I can't see myself enjoying other things in DC if we're getting like peak like this. Because it's hard to compare stuff like this to other things in DC. And I know DC has like a messy track record when it comes to stuff. They'll make something really good, then they'll make something really bad. It's not like Marvel where it's mostly consistent. But, anyways, I actually thought this episode was actually a perfect mix of the Dragon Ball inspiration and the Superman inspiration. Uh, the one problem I had with like the past seasons, a lot of the time they forget that they're supposed to inspire from Dragon Ball, and there's less references to Dragon Ball, especially in season one. And it's like now we're finally getting those isms of Dragon Ball Z, and I really liked how they did Superboy. I think it was a pretty interesting take on the character to make him hyper with ADHD. I don't know for sure if he has ADHD, but he actually felt like he did. And I feel like that would be a very interesting take on the character because, well, he does have all this power and energy. How did he contain it as a child? Because that's the also interesting factor of it. But the other thing is that I will say their whole family dynamic is just perfect. Where Lois is more of a worry type. Superman's carefree, which is kind of the reason why he's kind of reckless at times. And Superboy is just hyper, sometimes carefree and everything. I think their dynamic is just something special, and it just fits well of how the characters would actually adapt in this adaptation. Now, I did notice something. Superboy seems to be more like his mother in some aspects, which I don't really see from the comics all that much. I see mostly he's like Superman, but he's reckless, is really what it is. Or he wants to be Superman, but he isn't perfect like Superman. And I feel like making them more like Lois makes it a different take where it's fresh and new.
Could have been the
And
inspiration
I
for
could,
Sorry. Uh, it
uh,
could have been the
yeah,
inspiration for this adaptation of Lewis Lane was that they're like, hey, it's kind of like Superboy, and it just makes it fit in a lot easier.
yeah, that is true. And I think what really happened was is that I think at some point we could see in the comments if this does really well, someone could be like, okay, I like the idea of Superboy being more like Lois, like a super Kryptonian, but if it was Lois' personality, I think that could transfer in the comments very well. But back to the episode, I actually think focusing on Lois was an actually good idea because the past few episodes, Lois has been taking a back seat, which I think is hilarious because she was a supporting character in the last two seasons. And I always was like, so what's the deal with Lois? And then finally they actually give Lois her kind of B plot of this episode. But the whole Superboy, Lois, all that thought was done really well. I'm still not a big fan of Superboy's costume. It's still trying to get used to. The red pants really don't get to me, but I understand it's an alternate reality, so maybe his reality, Superman wore red pants instead of red trunks, which, if that's the case, I'll accept it because I think that would be a pretty funny change that he wears red pants instead of red trunks. But if they ever put Superboy in our timeline, yeah, I'm gonna need him to wear the trunks, not the pants, because it don't do for me, Chief. But when he meets everyone, I like how he immediately thinks that they will understand who he is or know who he is because he's like, "Hi, mom. Hi, dad." Because I was like, "Well, that's a weird thing with it. Didn't they tell him to not do that?" And I was like, "Oh, wait, maybe they're trying to do a different way from what Trunks was told." Because in Dragon Ball Z, most Dragon Ball fans know in Dragon Ball Z, the whole thing with Trunks is that he couldn't tell anyone but Goku that he was Vegeta's son, and that was it. Nobody else could know because Bulma was afraid it would interrupt the space time continuum. And I think nobody told him early on, and it was like an emergency roll call, is really what it was in the scene that we saw, which I think is a really good idea that it makes it where we're not constantly going through episode by episode wondering, oh, this is going to be the episode where he reveals it. Oh, this is going to be the episode where he reveals it. I hate it when that happens because then we're not focusing on the real factor of it. But I also like how he interacts with his uncle Jimmy, his aunt Cara, and this kind of shows that um, they're Jimmy and Cara will eventually get married, at least in another universe. But I think that is good foreshadowing in its own right because it's very rarely we see Supergirl ever get married. For whatever reason, it's very rare for that. And I think that would be like a cool factor to finally get in the show. Um, in another sense, I do really like how uh their whole superhero dynamic is where he is more like Sonic from the Sonic movies. I noticed that when he was really trying to like fight and everything, he wanted to do it through talking first. And it's kind of played off jokingly, but in a Superman way. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of like how Sonic is in the Sonic movies or Leonardo in Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where they're reckless, they're carefree, they're young minded. They don't really understand how to be a hero. They just want to do the good in the world. I think that was an interesting take on the character, and I think that's perfect for the Superboy character. Now, I know there are some instances where he is that way, but for this context, I think it works for the story they're trying to tell. And I did like at the end where he was actually the one that actually saved the universe from these dinosaur-like monsters, and how he was the one that stopped the threats from it. Now we don't know if this is like an alternate reality or not, but if this isn't, I think it would be pretty cool just to see um, that what he said was true this episode, where he is the one that actually saved, made humans and these dinosaur like monsters become like family, is what it is. And within society, I thought that was an interesting, good thing that he did. And it really just shows how they know what the Superman character is. That he doesn't fight with violence, he fights with hope and trust and for a better tomorrow. And I was like, that is just perfect. And it just shows that this show knows how to take Superman when we were in the dark ages when season one came out, when it felt like we could never get like a good Superman that was hopeful and trustful and everything and wasn't scary. We just kept on getting these scary, Batman like Superman, and it didn't hit like it should have. But when but I was very surprised Kara and Jimmy took a back seat this episode, but I think it was kind of needed because so we have the past few episodes where it's focused on them, and I was really thinking, like in episode one, this season seems like it's going to focus on Jimmy and Kara. This is more like a Supergirl show, but no, it's Superman's still the main focus, and I think that's good. If I had to say anything about this, uh, I actually do like how um Lois is just constantly trying to find answers and everything, and then Superboy keeps on getting interrupted because everybody they don't really understand that Superboy is had to come here for some reason. They're just seeing him as like a relative that is just visiting, and I think that is just shows how smart Lois Lane really is, how she takes things seriously, how she's the voice of reason, because that's another character that has been really suffering in like live action adaptations and stuff, where she is played on as just a damsel in distress. Especially in kids' content, she is really shown to be just a damsel in distress that can't defend for herself, which I think is just a sad take on the character, and it just wipes away the charm from her. But I absolutely did like how Kara was wanting to teach Superboy the stuff that Superman taught Supergirl. It just really makes a full circle moment where Kara is just trying to show Superboy how to be one of the Kents. And I just think that's just special in its own right. And ju- just overall, the Superboy character was just perfect this episode. Jimmy was funny as always. I'm still surprised he's working with worms of all things, and he got turned into a porcupine. I thought that was interesting. But and Kara, I was surprised she did a Superman reference, which, in case you didn't know, there's always been merchandise of Superman holding the Daily Planet. And I was so surprised she was getting a selfie where she was holding the Daily Planet. It reminds me of the popcorn buckets that used to be at Six Flags when I was little, of Superman holding the Daily Planet. And the Daily Planet was the popcorn bucket. That used to be a thing in all Superman media, that he would always save the Daily Planet from falling from on someone. And I was like, okay, they finally like introduced the big reference everyone knows Superman by. Other than the telephone booth, I think the Daily Planet, him saving the Daily Planet from falling from the sky, is another big one. But back to the episode. Uh Hank, I want to talk about Captain Hank so badly because I felt like he was a huge highlight this episode because he it really just shows that he was turned into a villain because of his bad choices. And it yeah, it's kind of Superman's fault, just a smidge. but he was the one that started doing making the villains fear him. And then eventually, once he started taking down villains that were humans as well, kind of feared some other humans as well because they were like, okay, he can take down aliens, and he doesn't mind going all out on those. But when it's a defenseless human criminal, it doesn't. Oh, that ain't good. And I actually did like how uh Hank was literally watching the Daily Planet interviews and everything about Hank, the research about Hank, the controversy and everything. It it kind of speaks about influencers and stuff nowadays. When they do something bad, they go rogue and then they end up going to like a dark side. It's kind of very similar to in a sense of when someone does something bad on the internet and then it backfires on them and then they eventually get canceled on the internet. Uh, I did like his crash out. It really was the moment I saw it, I was like, okay, we're just getting like full powered cyborg Superman type stuff. And then he confronts Lex. He literally pretends to apologize but sounds sincere that so he can figure out a way to destroy the little device that is literally making him shock him. And the moment when I saw him destroy that thing, I was like, okay, he is taking full power and everything. And they did the classic Let's cowering and running away thing. That is always iconic with the Lex Luthor character. When something goes bad, he just runs away. And I just thought that was just perfect in its own right because it just shows that this we're finally at the point where Lex Luthor is Lex Luthor. He's not some pawn or anything like that. He is an actual villain and he's actually comic accurate finally after 3 seasons. But seeing him literally run away from him and then Hank literally seeing the samurai, which we finally got the name of Slade, which I thought was a very interesting way for them to introduce Slade because for some reason we've been getting so many Teen Titans references, whether it's costumes, posters, whatever you want to say. And yet we have Cyborg as still a kid from season 2. And I am wondering, does that mean this version of the Teen Titans has a replacement for Cyborg? Because I know Teen Titans are not always the Teen Titans of the TV show, because even though that's the most iconic lineup, sometimes it's Kid Flash. It sometimes Robin is Dick Grayson. Oh wait, Robin is Nightwing. Like it changes over time, and I do think they're going to change the lineup just to make people know, hey, these characters are also Teen Titans, but the only ones that we really know from the original lineup, from like costumes and posters and stuff, is Robin, Raven, and then there's Starfire, which I think is very interesting that there's no Beast Boy. So who knows who could actually replace Beast Boy? But what I'm really getting at is that I'm surprised how old they made Slade in a sense where he's white haired and everything. He looks like he's in his 50s. And it's very interesting how they made him like that instead of like in his 30s or 40s or something like that. They made him old. But I did like how it shows that it's another sense where they're building off this universe where, yeah, other heroes exist. We just probably won't see them or we'll just get mentions of them. But I did like how Slade, he is not full on Deathstroke as what it looks like. He doesn't even have orange, which I'm surprised about. He's all black. but that could be lets his branding or whatever on him. But I actually thought it was pretty cool just to see that they added a Teen Titans villain in this universe, which is just cool in its own right. But the moment Hank literally destroyed the lab just shows his true anger and how he literally said at the end of the episode, "Oh, this city made me a villain. You made me a villain, Superman." And then he said, if you want to be a hero for this universe, for this world, for this city, come and fight me now. And I was like, okay, this is gonna be full on evil Hank. I was like, this dude has more aura than the past villains we had in the past two seasons, which was another lacking thing I felt like in the last two seasons is that the villains didn't have aura. Brainiac kind of had aura, but at the same time, he really didn't have any powers. So I really felt like that was a mess up on their own system. Plus, they made him a robot for some reason. I really wish he was the green alien we all know him as, the green android alien. But for what this universe is, it does have its steps up with character design. But what I'm trying to get at is that I feel like they're really trying to show the aura that Cell has in Dragon Ball Z, where he has so much aura compared to the past villains in the Dragon Ball universe. And I was joking with Cartoon Animation Fan that they can make some kind of Dragon Ball Z abridged reference where he's singing "My Way" at the end when when he dies, or maybe they do what Imperfect Cell did when Trunks went back to his universe to destroy his cell, where he starts singing, and then after the first two lines, he dies immediately. They could do something like that. I think it would be fun, but I don't think they're probably going to do that because then they have to get the last of the song or anything. But they could have him sing something, which would be pretty interesting. But even if we don't, it's not a big deal because he's such a cool villain. And I, the destruction that he made to the city in just, I don't know, 5 minutes or something like that, it really felt like, man, this guy, he could destroy the city in like 10 minutes. It's almost like it. Or at least 30 minutes, the whole city would be gone, like ghost town looking. And I think he is like the best villain we've had so far. And I also think this is going to be the kind of like moment where Superman sort of almost dies almost, but because they're kind of setting up the death of Superman's storyline. But who knows what's going to happen? It could be anything. But what I really think they should do is I'm expecting next episode to kind of be kind of emotional because I mostly think what's going to happen is that Lois is just going to end up seeing Superman go up against Cyborg Superman, and after Superboy says, "Oh, he lost that battle against Cyborg Superman. He died." She is gonna be someone that is gonna immediately say, "Oh shoot, I can't have him die and ruin my future because I can see what a wonderful future I could have if we do stop the cyborg Superman. I can have a wonderful kid. I can have a wonderful family, nice little farmhouse, perfect. Even though the future is coming fast, I still want the fantastic family and future I want." And this could kind of be like the final moment of like the Lois storyline, kind of showing that this was not going to be like a full on storyline through from start to finish, but more like a side story in the plot. And I actually think it could be really emotional if they go that route. If they don't, I really feel like it's going to be a huge missed opportunity, or maybe they have a better idea than that. but I don't know of any idea that is way better than that. Of course, these writers show that they are way better at writing than I am at times. But I do think it is going to hit an emotional factor because this show does not hold back on emotional factors. I mean, let's not forget the sad situation that Superman told of how uh, his parents told him that he had to hide his powers and he had to hide them all this time. And every time when he wanted to use them, he had to stop himself and not save anyone from things when he was a kid. And then we also had another emotional factors where we had the whole Kara type stuff. Like that stuff was really emotional. Of especially when Brainiac revealed that he wasn't her dad. Like there's there's been plenty of sad and surprising moments that we have never seen, and I think we could see eventually see something really special in next episode. Um, Cartoon Animation Fan did say we could at some point see uh Superboy sacrificing himself for his dad. And I did notice, yeah, the so many people have dissect that intro so many times. I've seen so many videos of it, and I do think we could see something like that. Like the last shot of it, we see like a flaming metropolis that could be like that could have been foreshadowing of seeing his universe because it's like a fiery uh destructive metropolis. And I do think it's pretty interesting how they're they're kind of foreshadowing stuff in the intro when we didn't get that in the past two seasons. But if you don't know in the intro, what I thought it looked like was that it was kind of foreshadowing, oh, he's from the future and he's going to time travel back to his universe. But now knowing that he could possibly die, uh, grain of salt, but I do think he could possibly die because in the intro we do see him fade away, and then Lois starts almost about to cry, is what it looks like. If it wasn't for Lois about to look like she's about to fall with tears, I would have guessed, oh, this is probably going to be an emotional moment where she has to let go of her son and she'll meet him again in the future. But I think it could be an emotional factor where he could die or almost die, which I think is another cool factor of this, where I can see Lois being like, afterwards, going full mom mode and saying, I don't want you fighting against Cyborg Superman, and being like, listen, I don't know how my version took all this, but I can't see you die, is what it is. And I can see her ending up, you know, making restrictions and stuff. Kind of like Chi Chi in Dragon Ball Z, where she doesn't want Gohan and Goten to fight because she doesn't want to get hurt and she wants them to be scholars. I could see that happening with Lois and making her afraid that he's going to die. And there's just so many factors that could happen. Uh, I didn't even think about Kara, but in the preview, it did show that Kara is going to fight with Superboy and Superman. So we're going to have like three Kryptonians fighting all at once, which I think is just going to be an awesome battle. But it's just, I wonder what Kara's whole instance is in this battle. If she's going to be strong enough to go against Cyborg Superman, or if she's going to be more weak. Because in season 2, it showed when like Kara and Superman was fighting, she was a little weaker than Superman, it seemed like. And some people, I know they kind of said, oh, it's because she wasn't in the sun all that much, but I think it's mostly because they were trying to do a more Dragon Ball thing where Vegeta is less strong because he was trained the same way as where Goku was trained the martial arts way. I think it could be interesting to see that Kara isn't really that strong of a warrior as she thinks. And that Superman was always the stronger one, hypothetically and literally. I think that could really show another factor. And on top of that, men are just stronger than girls. I hate to be sexist about it, but that is just the truth of life. But I do think it could show a factor that while she's not strong in muscle, she's strong in heart. And I think that's where she finds her purpose of how she's different from Superman, maybe. Or maybe I'm just looking too much into this because of that scene in episode 2. But at the end of the day, I do think that episode is just going to be a wild showdown between Cyborg and Superman. And it really just makes me wonder how badly are they going to lose this fight, or if they're going to win it and we're going to have like the Bizarro type stuff, because that's another factor. I am wondering if Bizarro is going to fight in this battle, and then he's going to mess up really badly and either make them lose or end up destroying Cyber Superman and he becomes like a hero and then he gets it full of his head. And then I could really see him going all out and then let's saying, hey, you're a really good hero, and then manipulate him and saying, how about you join me and I can make you into a full-on hero? And then he gives them the classic blue and purple suit, the sideways Superman logo, call him Bizarro, and then the rest is history. We finally get like a Bizarro where and then Lex teaches him uh who's evil, who's bad, and then manipulates him that yeah, while Superman did save you, did he really save you? Because if he really saved you, he would have gotten you somewhere safe. He wouldn't let you wander the streets. Like there's so many factors he could manipulate him with. Because I could see him being like, what do you do on Halloween? Did he at least give you a home? Did he give you food? Did he give you shelter? I could actually see him literally saying all those things. And you know it's true because Superman, he didn't get him out in time. He escaped from the facility while Superman was dealing with all the robots. He cowered away, but he knew Superman protected him. So I do think he could see him like, oh, he thought you were one of his kind and all that. Like that could be another factor. There's just so many things that could happen in this episode that I really think could be fat. But the one I'm really wanting is kind of an emotional factor with this battle where it kind of gets sad, depressed. Superman may be going through tough time. Maybe even Lex goes to jail because of all this. And, you know, after that, we could see some like villains afraid to even go against Superman because of how strong Cyber Superman was. And we could see like a whole like where they kind of do the death of Superman, but it's literally the death of Superman, not Clark Kent. Clark Kent is still alive, and we're just known for more crime, and it's just Clark Kent, and he just misses that factor of being Superman. I could see that happening too. And then we have a whole storyline of Let's escaping from jail from Bizarro or something like that. Anything could happen, but at the end of the day, I think it would be pretty fun just to see the emotional factor.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What'd you rate this episode?
And I would definitely rate it. This has so many good highs, and I almost forgot. I love the Trunks fit of him having the jacket like Trunks, but I do like how everything looks with him. I like how this episode was. I'm gonna give it a 10. This was pretty peak. This was a pretty peak episode and a good setup episode to the battle we're about to get that could be very emotional.
Yeah, it's gonna be a pretty crazy fight. If you notice, he also has a bunch of the droids from Lex Luthor. He like let him free, so it's not only just him they're gonna have to fight in theory. They're also gonna have to probably save others, and that's where the three Supermans are gonna have to kind of work together. I feel like that's a big thing we got to look into this next episode. I do think at some point something impactful will happen that is going to affect them long term. And then I do suspect definitely we're going to have a time skip to eventually when Superboy is old enough to walk and talk at least, somewhat, able to do hero work and help out the family. But another big thing I also do see before this season ends is crypto is going to appear. And I think that's going to be like one of the bigger things of the last episode, or the one before that. Death of Superman stuff. And I was thinking about it. We go back to the last episode at the very end with all the robots and what's going on. I think Brainiac is going to get saved by Cyborg Superman, and they're going to work together. That's for sure something I'm gonna. I feel like that would be the peak of the big battle to come, and it's preparing us for next season to be more wild than what's going on now. Jimmy and Kara, I think that's just a given that they're gonna figure it out for sure. If not now, the start of next season, absolutely, they gotta. That's the couple, and she finally found someone for sure now, and it's befitting. Superboy, really well off. I think it's giving Lewis a reason to look forward to the future instead of questioning it and thinking about, hey, look at what we got going on now, but it's bright. It's really bright. He's just like her, and part of her emotion is that she's going to start growing close to him, and right as soon as she realizes it, I do think he's going to get killed. I do think that's what they're kind of coming to. Even if he doesn't get killed, he could get like transported back, and it could be like kind of like a death. It's like, nah, he didn't die. He didn't die, and we're gonna have like two super boys in the future, one from the future and one that's like their present day boy, that kind of helps them later on, that comes out of nowhere at the big final fight. I don't think this series is nowhere near to ending, but you got to look at the timeline. You have the Green Lantern series that is obviously going to come next, so there's going to be a huge gap in between this season and everything that follows up. But I'm getting really off topic. I'm sorry. This episode was phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's a good introduction. It's very fast paced. It fell short because of that, because we're trying to introduce Superboy, and I do agree with you that it was a good thing that they gone ahead and said, "Hey, this your kid. This your kid. Both of y'all. You made this." I feel like that it makes it a lot easier than having to wait like 50 episodes in, or even like, "Hey, I'm gonna kill your son." Oh yeah, that's your son, by the way, and then just shoot him down. Oh, but that played out really well. Um, yeah, that's kind of my big sum up of this episode. And like I said, big fight coming in the next one. It's gonna be kind of, I don't know, not sad, but it's gonna be like one of those memorable ones because we're gonna have all three of them together. And another thing about Superboy I love, it's like if Lois Lane had like the Superman powers, that's how she would be. Honestly, that's really how she would be. She is exactly like him. She has the same spirit, and I feel like that's a good inspiration, and it makes things make sense. By the way, his jacket is canon. It is from comic book series. They give him like this cool jacket with
Yeah,
the glasses, and it's funny. The roller skates also. That is the funky part. Do think
yeah,
I do think he does have roller skates as well, but for the series, it's a cartoon. I mean, who's gonna care? I think it just makes it more rad that he has roller skates. Cause like, dude, you can fly. Why do you need roller skates? Um,
when I saw he had roller skates, I was like, just wait till he sees the wheelies that we used to have in the 2000s. He would go insane over the.
it's weird because he was like, whoa, skate wheels or whatever. He's like, oh man, it's like he's never seen anything like that. I guess in the future that he's from, it's like they probably had like jetpack boots or something crazy by now. Um, yeah. I guess for my rating of this episode, I'll rate it a. Ooh, this it's like odd territory because it's really big on the introduction. It's really big on Lewis Lane. It was more of her episode along with Superboy's. There was like some hints about Jimmy and Kara reinsuring the people, even though I think Kara didn't notice, and Jimmy, I don't think he really noticed. I think he was more happy to be called uncle than anything else. I don't know, but bro,
That's such a Jimmy thing to do.
yeah, he's just easy, and that's. I wonder if they're gonna have a kid too. That would make it even crazier, like the super twins or something. Not twins, but yeah, just some funny twist to it. My rating for this episode, I guess I'll just give it a 10. I'll give it a 10. It's not a bad introduction. It's actually very good off, and it's going somewhere. That's all that matters at the end of the day. You got anything else to add on here?
I will say, even with uh, even with Cyborg Superman being tough, we also got to remember the factor of the let spots in the last season, which I think a lot of people have forgotten. They had kryptonite inside them. They were powered by kryptonite. So when they were destroyed and hit, it weakened Superman and Supergirl. I think that could be another factor of how they lose the battle. When you mentioned the let spots, I was like, oh yeah, they have the kryptonite in them from the last season. I could see Lex putting kryptonite still in them because why else would he still have them? I think he upgraded them, but with the power of the kryptonite, I think that could be just awesome in its own right.
Yeah, and if you think about it, the person who do you see the most befitting of fighting Cyborg, as the main character? It's got to be Superman. And if you remember, he does have kryptonite as well, so he's gonna have a chance of dying here, which they can't kill him off. Would you rather kill the future kid that technically can still exist because I don't know how this timeline works. It's all funky in DC. It don't matter. Everyone's born again somehow. It just DC's weird. And that's what's so funny. So someone's gonna die, or get hurt, or something sad's gonna happen. It's gonna be sad. No matter what, it's gonna be sad. Maybe potential time skip stuff, but we'll see. At the end of the day, we'll see. And the big thing is there's a setup for that Green Lantern series coming. We already had a little sneak peek and a lot of Teen Titans references, as you said. And coming back to that, oh, I'm sorry for getting up. Teen Titans and Slade becoming Deathstroke. So the Teen Titans are first, but I think he was doing that type of work anyway. And what happens is the Teen Titans exist first, and then he becomes Deathstroke. So boom, boom. Can have it. And then there's like a prototype of Teen Titans. Because, the ones that we know now, Raven and all that, that's like the new generation. Well, now they're like really old in the comics anyway. So we'll get to see probably the OG for Donna Troy and the little speedster. I don't know what to think about them because that just I didn't read too much of it. It's like, yeah, I was a little lost there. That's all I got left. Anything else? Any extra words? Wisdom?
Uh, I will say if we ever do see more of what this Teen Titans whole thing looks like, I definitely want to see how old this Batman is because if we have a Robin who is full on in his 20s, Batman has to be in his 50s, which I think is just weird in its own right to have a Batman older than a Superman when we mostly see them at the same age, which is another thing.
Oh my goodness! You just maybe that is the controversial part of it all. Batman can't appear in the series due to the Amazon series, and they don't want to intermingle. So in order to have Robin,
Yeah.
yeah, that does make it complicated. So maybe Teen Titans is really far down the road whenever they're like, okay, this is so successful, we're gonna come out with My Adventures with Batman, and then yeah, they just go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I also hear that the whole reason why they didn't put Batman or any Batman isms in season one was because they were like DC is like old Batman right now, and everybody has forgotten who Superman really is. And if we put Batman in the show, people are going to want more Batman than Superman, is what they were saying, is what it was.
I can see that. I feel like Superman has been shunned for quite a while. Batman's been it's the edgier one, you know. I get it. It's darker, more horror type of stuff, but we're kind of getting to the point where Superman is getting treated like Batman, and there's gonna be fatigue, definite big fatigue. So we're gonna see some crazy stuff. I think DC's gonna pull some cards, do some off the wall things, which will be pretty exciting.
Now all we need is Wonder Woman to get her big, full out uh, show and everything, and go full on Wonder Woman like what they're doing with Superman and Batman.
I think they're gonna do like a Samurai Jack type of series. She's like an Amazon
Oh, that would
character.
be awesome.
We're gonna see from like that perspective. They have a lot of potential here, and My Ventures is just this style. Then I feel like there's gonna be something else gonna tie into here. My Ventures, then this alternative that kind of intermingles within all the titles. Because you would think at some point they would want to do some Justice League movies or something where they are actually able to cross over here. But yeah, I think I ran out of stuff to talk about here.
Same here.
Well, gosh, what episode was this again? Was it 4 or 5?
Uh, I think this is 4. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, this is 4.
Okay, yeah, yes, you are correct. My bad. If we want to know what you guys' thoughts are on My Vision of Superman, Season 3, Episode 4, hope you guys stay safe. Until next time, peace
Peace
out.
out, guys.